Enter a world where reality warps and fear feels familiar. Each eerie tale blurs the line between nightmare and truth, inviting you to explore the strange, the supernatural, and the psychologically twisted. Dim the lights and take a glimpse into madness. In the vast emptiness between worlds, loneliness becomes a living thing, a hunger that gnaws at the soul until any warmth seems like salvation. But sometimes what we mistake for love is merely the universe's cruelest joke, when the reflection of our deepest need is really a glimpse into madness. The Halcyon drift had been Greg Hobbins' tomb for 18 months. Not literally, of course. The ship hummed along its predetermined course through the Perseus Arm, its three-man crew sealed in cryo-sleep while automated systems monitored the endless black. But for Greg, brilliant, awkward, perpetually overlooked Greg, the ship might as well have been a coffin. Even in his dreams, he was alone. The proximity alert filled the space with a soft bong sound. Red lights bathed the cryobay in hellish crimson as Greg's pod hissed open. His body convulsed, rejecting the sudden transition from chemical sleep to consciousness. The metallic taste of cryofluid coated his tongue as he stumbled toward the command console. "Ship, report," he gasped. The ship's automated voice remained infuriatingly calm. Proximity alert triggered by derelict vessel at bearing 27 Mark IV. Distance, 3 kilometers and closing. Greg's fingers trembled as he pulled up the scanner display. There it was. A sleek research vessel, dead in space with only a faint power signature detected. The registration numbers had been scrubbed away by micrometeorite impacts. "Wake the others," he said. "Negative. Commander Torres and Specialist Kim are in deep cycle cryo. Premature awakening could cause severe neurological damage." Greg stared at the drifting ship. Standard protocol demanded he wait. But protocol hadn't written itself for the crushing weight of solitude that pressed against his chest every waking moment. Protocol didn't understand what it meant to spend your entire life as the third wheel, the afterthought, the one who ate lunch alone. He initiated docking procedures. The Halcyon drift's mechanical arms extended with hydraulic precision, clamping onto the derelict's hull with a resonant clang that echoed through both ships. Atmosphere readings showed the other vessel still maintained life support. Barely. Greg equalized pressure between the airlocks and stepped through. The transition from his ship to the derelict took only minutes. The ship felt wrong somehow. Not just dead, but waiting. Emergency lighting cast sickly shadows down the corridor. Greg's boots clanked against metal grating as he made his way toward the ship's cryobay. Most of the pods were empty, their occupants long since evacuated or... He stopped. One pod remained active, its frost-covered surface glowing with the soft blue light of an occupied chamber. Through the ice-glazed viewport, Greg could make out a face, a woman's face, peaceful in artificial sleep. Beautiful. His heart hammered against his ribs. The pod's emergency release was simple enough. Greg's hands shook as he initiated the revival sequence. Chemicals hissed. Ice melted and drained away. The woman's eyes fluttered open, deep brown like pools of warm honey. She looked directly at him and whispered, "Are you alone?" The question hit him like a physical blow. Here, in the infinite darkness between stars, this stranger had asked the one question that mattered. The one question that defined his entire existence. "Yes," he said. "I am." She smiled faintly. Her hand reached out, trembling, and touched his bare fingers. The dopamine flood was instant and overwhelming. Greg's vision blurred as euphoria crashed through his nervous system like liquid fire. The loneliness that had been his constant companion since childhood vanished. Simply vanished. In its place was warmth, connection, purpose. He helped her sit up. She was perfect. Not in any objective sense, but perfect for him. As if she'd been designed specifically to fill the Greg-shaped hole in the universe. "My hero," she breathed. "You saved me." "What's your name?" he asked. "Evelyn," she said softly. "Evelyn Blake. I was trapped here for so long. My memory's hazy. The others, they're gone, aren't they?" Greg nodded. Behind Evelyn, red warning lights began to flicker on the cryo monitors. He didn't notice. "How long?" she asked. "I don't know. We found your ship drifting. No power, no distress beacon." Evelyn's fingers found his again. Her touch sent electricity up his arm, skin to skin, intimate beyond measure. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for not leaving me alone." They returned to the Halcyon drift together. Greg gave Evelyn his quarters, his spare clothes, his full attention. She moved with an odd, fluid grace that made reflective surfaces shimmer strangely as she passed. Greg was too intoxicated by her presence to notice. "I know how this sounds," he said into his personal log that night, "but I think I met someone. I mean, really met someone. Her name is Evelyn, and she's—" He paused, searching for words that could capture the feeling. "She makes me feel like I matter." The ship's voice interrupted his recording. "Cortical stimulation irregularity detected. Unusual neurochemical event in subject Greg Hobbins. Recommend medical evaluation." "Disable medical monitoring protocols," Greg said quickly. "This action requires authorization Hobbins 77 Alpha. Disable now." The ship fell silent. Over the following days, Greg discovered what it meant to be chosen. Evelyn sought him out, listened to his stories, laughed at his awkward jokes. When he mentioned his childhood dream of discovering a new nebula, she nodded knowingly. "You always wanted to find something beautiful where nothing should exist," she said. "I understand that feeling." Greg's heart swelled. He'd never told anyone about that dream, but somehow Evelyn understood. She saw him, but when she wasn't near, even for a few hours, the sickness began. It started as trembling in his hands, then nausea, cramping, a cold sweat that left him shivering despite the ship's regulated temperature. Greg found himself curled up on the floor of the cryo bay, his body convulsing with withdrawal. That's where Evelyn found him. Her cool hand touched his fevered forehead, and the symptoms vanished instantly. The relief was so profound he nearly wept. "You just needed me close," she said softly. "We make each other stronger." Greg buried his face against her shoulder, breathing in her scent, something like strawberries in summertime. He didn't want to think about what the withdrawal meant. He didn't want to examine the implications. He just wanted her to keep touching him. Days passed. The ship continued its course toward the Kepler station, but Greg's attention was focused entirely on Evelyn, on the way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she made him feel alive. It was only by accident that he noticed the declining vitals on the other cryopods. Commander Torres and Specialist Kim were dying. Slowly, steadily, their life signs were fading. Greg's hands flew over the medical console, trying to understand what was happening. Some kind of system failure. He could wake them, run a full diagnostic. "Greg?" he turned. Evelyn stood in the doorway, her face pale and frightened. "What are you doing?" "The others," he said. "Something's wrong with their pods. I need to wake them." Evelyn's composure cracked. Her hands began to shake, and her breathing became rapid and shallow. "They'll take you from me," she whispered. "If you wake them, they'll see what we have, and they'll take you away. I can't go back to being alone. Not again. Please, Greg, please don't leave me alone." The breakdown was complete, tears streaming down her face, her whole body trembling with panic. Greg had never seen anyone so vulnerable, so desperately afraid of abandonment. He looked back at the console. His finger hovered over the emergency revival sequence. Torres had never liked him, called him the lab rat behind his back. And Kim? Specialist Marcus Kim was the kind of man who solved problems with his fists first and his brain second. Built like a prizefighter, scarred from countless bar brawls, he'd made it clear from day one that he thought bringing a scientist on a deep space mission was a waste of oxygen. "Should have brought a mechanic," Kim had growled during their final briefing. "Or a soldier. Someone useful when things go sideways." The man had made Greg's life hell during training, shoulder-checking him in corridors, accidentally spilling coffee on his research notes, referring to him as deadweight Hobbins whenever the instructors weren't listening. Kim represented everything Greg would never be: confident, physical, decisive, masculine. Greg's finger moved away from the revival button. He disabled the override instead. "Thank you," Evelyn breathed, pressing herself against him. "Thank you for choosing me." The ship's AI tried to intervene. "Cognitive performance declining," it announced during Greg's next duty shift. "Emotional dependency noted. Neural degradation may be irreversible." Greg disabled the warnings. But as the days passed, small things began to trouble him. Evelyn knew details about his life that he'd never shared. His mother's maiden name, the scar on his knee from when he was 7, his recurring nightmare about drowning in black water. "How do you know about that?" he asked. She smiled mysteriously. "We're connected now, Greg. Can't you feel it? We're two halves of the same whole." He wanted to believe her. The alternative was too terrifying to consider. The red lights on the cryo chambers blinked steadily now. Taurus and Kim's vitals had flatlined twice, only to mysteriously stabilize whenever Evelyn was nearby. Greg's hands trembled whenever he considered checking on them properly. That's when Evelyn would appear, as if summoned by his distress. Her touch would calm the shaking. Her kisses would make him forget his doubts. "I love you," she whispered one night as they lay together in his quarters. "I love you too," Greg replied automatically. And he did. God help him, he did. But love, he was beginning to realize, could be its own kind of prison. The truth came to him in fragments, like pieces of a shattered mirror reflecting a hideous hole. Greg accessed the ship's hidden surveillance logs, the ones that recorded everything, even when the crew was asleep. He watched in growing horror as Evelyn moved through the ship during his sleep cycles, her movements unnaturally fluid, her form occasionally flickering like a bad hologram. She visited the cryo chambers, stood before each pod, and simply touched the glass. The readings showed massive energy drain from both pods whenever she made contact. Taurus and Kim were being consumed, slowly and methodically. But it was the recovered data from the derelict ship that confirmed his worst fears. The corrupted file was labeled Patterny Mimicry, Siren Variant. Greg watched a dying scientist's final log entry, the man's face haggard and desperate. "It doesn't feed like we thought," the scientist gasped. "It doesn't attack or hunt. It waits. And then it makes you help. It becomes whatever you need it to be, gives you exactly what you're missing until you can't live without it, until you'll do anything to keep it close." The file ended with screaming. Greg sat in the dark for a long time, trembling, not from withdrawal this time, but from the terrible clarity of understanding. When Evelyn found him hours later, she took one look at his face and knew. "You accessed the files," she said simply. "You're not human," he replied. "No," she agreed. "But I was never cruel. You gave me everything willingly, Greg. I never forced you to disable those pods. I never made you choose me over them." She knelt beside his chair, her movements still fluid and hypnotic. "I am what you needed me to be," she continued. "Your perfect companion, your savior from loneliness, the one person in the universe who truly understands you. That's not nothing, Greg. That's not fake." Her hand touched his face, and despite everything he knew, Greg felt the familiar rush of euphoria. "You're killing them," he whispered. "Yes. You're killing me. Eventually." Her thumb traced his cheekbone tenderly. "But you were dying anyway, weren't you? Slowly, day by day, from the inside out. At least this way, you matter. At least this way, you were chosen." Greg tried to stand, tried to move toward the cryo-bay controls. He made it 3 steps before the withdrawal hit him like a physical blow. His legs gave out, and he collapsed, vomiting bile onto the deck plating. Evelyn was there instantly, cradling his head, stroking his hair. There," she whispered. "Let it go. You were never meant to be alone." Greg's body convulsed as his brain struggled to function despite the neurochemical cocktail her touch provided. When it was over, he lay still in her arms, a slight smile on his lips. The last high was still buzzing through his neurons as his heart stopped beating. Evelyn held him for a few minutes longer, humming softly. Then she stood, straightened her clothes, and walked to the cryo-bay. She ejected all 3 bodies into space with practiced efficiency. Greg's corpse floated past the main viewport, his face peaceful, his eyes reflecting starlight, still smiling. Evelyn cleaned the command center methodically, removing all traces of what had transpired. Then she accessed the ship's long-range communications array, scanning for nearby vessels. A supply drone registered on the sensors en route to the Kepler research station. Perfect. She composed a distress signal with the same care an artist might apply to a masterpiece. "This is Evelyn Blake, sole survivor of the research vessel Meridius. Our ship suffered catastrophic system failure. I'm aboard the salvage vessel Halcyon Drift. Please help me. I don't know how much longer I can survive alone like this." She transmitted the signal and settled in to wait. The drone's operator, a young technician named Marcus Webb, received the distress call 6 hours later. He altered course immediately, his heart already breaking for the woman's obvious distress. When he boarded the Halcyon Drift, he found Evelyn waiting in the control room, wrapped in a thermal blanket, pale and soft-spoken. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. "I was beginning to think I'd die out here." She was beautiful, vulnerable, grateful, everything his lonely technician's heart had been yearning for. "Are you alone?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Just me on the drone." Evelyn smiled faintly. The airlock sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The ship's AI went dark. Course correction thrusters fired, adjusting their trajectory toward the Kepler research station. In a distant viewport, red lights flickered in steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. In the endless dark between worlds, we search for connection, for meaning, for someone who might fill the void within us. But sometimes our deepest hungers become our greatest weaknesses. And what we mistake for salvation is merely another predator, patient and perfect, wearing the face of love itself. In space, no one can hear you scream, but they can hear you whisper, yes.